fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery.
Well, welcome back into the House of Mystery. I'm Al Warren. We got Mr. Michael Hawley as co-host today.
That is correct. I am here, Al.
Yeah, you sound better, much stronger than last week.
Yes. The flu kicked my butt, and then so it takes a couple months for me to get over it, though, with the cough and all that. So
yeah, but you can get out and start shoveling all that snow.
And I did 12 inches today of snow in Buffalo.
Good. You need a good winter.
Yeah. So I needed a lot of exercise because the Bills lost this weekend, and I'm in depression. So
You have to shovel the whole neighborhood's driveway. Get out there and
yes.
do everyone's. It's crazy. And here I am up in Canada, and we don't have any. Haven't had any all winter. It's just crazy, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of crazy, we're going to be talking about a book of short stories. Now, they are sci-fi, fantasy, horror, a little bit of everything going on in there, crime, so it's really exciting. The book's called The Moth and Other Tantalizing Tales, and the editor-author of that is here, James L. Hill. So thanks for being here, James.
Thanks. Glad to be back. Sorry to hear about the Bills.
Yeah.
I know it. And I actually was interviewing you last time, I remember.
Yeah, and I'm a Giant fan, so, we've been out.
Well, we've been out. I
here.
wonder if your new head coach will be the Baltimore's ex-coach. So we'll see.
Yeah. You got the good hardball.
Yes. I'm sorry, Al. We were just kind of talking.
That's all right. I turn on my hockey. No, so James, what's been going on in your life? You got this book out. How does one start a book of short stories and put it together? Like, what was your motivation there?
Well, I went into my file cabinet that's in my garage, and I said, okay, I need to empty out this file cabinet, and let's see what's in here. And there's all sorts of short stories and stuff from when I was writing short stories mainly, and I decided, you know what? I really like these stories. They're really, they speak to me, Sometimes when you're a writer, you go back and you read your old stuff, and you're like, ooh, what was I thinking? But then when when you find one that you read and go, ooh, yeah, what was I thinking? That was great, I decided, you know what? I should put out something, and it was coming up to Christmas time and everything, so I said, I'll put out something for the Christmas vacation, for people, something short that people can read over a couple of days or whatever. So I pulled my favorites out and decided to put them together, put a book out.
So what do people expect when they get this? What kind of stories have you got in there? Maybe talk about your favorite couple of stories or favorite story and what it was for you.
All right. Well, the book is named The Moth and Other Tantalizing Tales. The Moth is the main story in the book. It's probably the longest one, a couple of 20,000 words probably, maybe a little more. And that's a crime story. So that, a little bit of sci-fi, a little bit of tech, it's sort of like a techno crime story. And it revolves around a guy who just got out of prison. His girlfriend kind of sent him into prison. And when he comes out, the crime boss wants him to, of course, get right back into it and pull just one more job for him. And so they want him to hack into this girl's computer because they want to get to her husband. There's all kinds of intrigue stuff going on there. You've got to figure out what the husband's into, all the kind of stuff. And our hero, he kind of wants to save this girl. She's a beauty queen, let's say. Not that she wants to be, but she is. And so, he immediately falls in love with this girl. And so that's kind of the premise behind the moth. And the idea, the reason why they're moths, because you have your moths and you have your butterflies. And if you're a butterfly, everybody loves you. But if you're a moth, they crush you immediately. Basically, there's no difference between moths and butterflies. Are you a moth or are you a butterfly?
The Mothman right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they've written stories about me. Listen, so when you do these short stories, about how long are they, each story? How many words, roughly?
It depends. There's a couple of short ones in there, a couple of 1,000 words, 3,000 words, a couple of longer ones, like 10,000 words. Some of them was written like to be sent into magazines, so they would have a word limit, maybe 5,000 words, something like that. So I would stick to the word limit. And some of them was written just because I had an idea and I wrote it. So, like the Moth was just an idea and I just wrote it. So that kind of goes a little long. But I can be long-winded sometimes, especially if the Moth is in 5 parts. So it was like I built this story out in 5 parts. So you get a little bit of this guy, a little bit of that guy, story as it goes along. But some of them are quite fast. Like Twisted Christmas is I don't know, about 2,500 words or so, and that was written just for the Christmas season, and it's like the devil and Santa Claus having a bit of a conversation there, a bit of a history. Yes.
Well, do you have a method? Does it come easy for you, or are you able to do this? Because in a short story, you've kind of got to get the reader on board to know the character, what's going on, what the issue is, and get it solved. And it's all in a really quick, short word. So you have to really make your words. You have to choose them wisely because it all has to work in a short time, right? Is there some sort of method to that, or is it just natural for you?
There's somewhat of a method to the madness. But yes, you're quite correct. You do have to get people into the story right away. And that's kind of like how I write my stories anyway. The exciting incidents, as they call it, something that happens right away that puts you right there in the moment, especially which is very important to do with short stories. With longer novels, of course, you can kind of build into it. You can let the scene or the situation bring you into the story. But in short stories, you got to really put that person in there and show you that person and get everybody on board with, okay, this story is going to be about him or her or, that kind of thing. Because, like you say, you got to get the reader involved early and right away. I'm sometimes long-winded, so my short stories sometimes tend to be a little longer than, about 5,000. You figure a short story magazine length is no more than 2,000 to 5,000 words.
I'm being long-winded. I could never do a short story. And my publisher asked me to do that twice. So all I did was stole a chapter out of one of my books and gave it to him, and it worked. So, but that's tough.
Yeah, that is. But, I did some short stories for quite a while, for about a couple of years. I just wrote short stories because I think I can write 4 to 5 short stories in a year, where it takes me a year to write one novel, and usually 2 to 3 years to write a novel. So I think, okay, I'm going to break into this writing business. I better get some stuff out. And so, I was forcing myself to write quick and short. And it worked, you learn things. You know what I did? I took a journalism class. And journalism, you have to be very quick and get to the point, So that really helped me writing some news stories and things like that. Sitting down there and they give you a prompt and then you have to write a news story and it has to fit within one column and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You're writing characters for short stories. Is it the same kind of writing of characters as it is for the long, normal novels? Do you find it easier or harder, or how do you get into that character yourself, and what's your process there?
Well, my characters, I always have very deep and deep discussions with my character. Not all of that makes it into either the novel or the short story. With the short story, you kind of can leave out some of the details because you only need really the most important fact. But there's a little bit of background that comes through in the way they speak or the way they look or something like that can give you some hints as to what this character is. In a novel, you can spell all that out. You can have a whole chapter on how this guy looked and what happened to him and how did he get to look that way and all that kind of stuff. You can do a whole background somewhere, not in the beginning. Don't do it in the beginning of your novel. Somewhere in the middle, you can go through his background, his history, and why he's the person he is. But in the short story, that stuff has to come in somewhat near the beginning, and it can't be very long. It's got to be just a major point. The guy fell down an elevator shaft, and now he's crippled, and that kind of thing, or whatever the driving force behind your character is. You got to get to it, and you got to make it short enough that people can hang on to it. Like, oh my God, the guy fell down an elevator shaft, and he lived. Yeah, and he's very mad. I would be too if I fell down an elevator shaft, that kind of thing. So, but you don't have to go deep into that. You might want to put in there somewhere, why did he fall down there? What happened to the elevator? That kind of thing. Did someone push him? That sort of stuff. But it has to be brief. In the short story, it has to be brief and direct to the point. You have to hit the reader with it, so the reader go, oh wow, and then from there continue on with your story.
Tough to do.
Yeah, it can be. And same as so are these characters the same to you then? Like your short story character and a novel character, do you have the same relationship? Do you hear them the same way and see them and all that, or is it a different experience?
Oh, it's all the same to me. Everybody's a person. So, when you have as many characters running around in your head, they all become your best friend. I say I'm never alone.
Well, I guess that's a good thing, And then do you work dialogue out with your characters then too? Is that how it goes, or do you have a different method?
No, I talk to myself. I work my dialogue out. I used to have so many conversations with myself. I had to tell people, I'm not talking to you. And they're like, well, who are you talking to then? Because there's only me and you in the room.
The grocery store, at the bank, you're talking to yourself?
Oh, yeah. I have to catch myself sometime because, yes, I will sit there and talk to my characters and answer. And it was funny. I used to tell people, it's okay if I'm talking to myself. You don't have to worry until it becomes an argument.
Yeah, I start throwing things around. No, it's actually good. It's good. Nowadays you can put on like earphones or something and people just think you're talking on the phone, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Like sometimes you walk around with your phone in your hand so people would think you are talking on the phone.
That's right.
Yeah. Because you don't want everybody looking at you when you're talking about, murdering somebody. But then they're looking at you anyway because you're talking on the phone about murdering somebody.
Yeah, you can be in trouble there,
Yeah, who's he talking to?
That guy. When you do short stories, because quite often in the short features you see on TV, like the horror ones, Alfred Hitchcock and stuff, there's always like a meaning to it, right? There's a subtext or a meaning. Do you do that with your short stories, or is it just entertainment?
Everything I write have meaning behind it somewhere. So, yeah, it wouldn't be a good story if it didn't have a meaning. So it's not really themed, but some of it is like, all right, well, this is technology, and what happens if this technology goes wrong, or someone uses this idea, and, oh, yeah, this was a good idea, but, if you use it this way, it becomes a very bad idea, and that kind of thing. And sometimes it's, morality, like in the Moth, it's somewhat morality-based because here goes this poor guy who in love with this girl, and, obviously he was a hacker before he met them. So he didn't have a problem with, robbing people and everything. But then he finds out that he goes to jail, and of course his girl kind of dumps him. And so when he finally comes out of jail, he had the honor of not speaking about the crime, so he does the full time for it. But then when he comes out of jail, here she comes, shows up and everything, and it's like, are you going to change your ways? Are you going to be? And obviously he does not. They talk him right into getting back into the crimes and everything, and but the other girl saves him when he realizes that wait a second, why am I working for this guy again? Type of thing. So you have to have, sometimes you have to have a little uplifting morality end to it, like, oh, will this guy change the evil of his ways? Will he see and this and that, and and then sometimes it's like, nope. He was a bad guy to start with. He's going to be a bad guy to the end.
So do you want people to take away something from the book? Do you want them just to be entertained, or is there something more you want? Or This
is a lot of entertainment, really. Like I said, each story had a little something to it that you could sit back to, oh, well, that was interesting. I mean, I have a story in there called Antibody, which had to do with COVID-19 and, government overreach and stuff, that kind of thing. But then you see in the story, all right, well, maybe the government has a point here. This is killing us, and how far do you go, or how far should the government go to beat this thing,
That's a thing of late.
So sometimes there's no good. Sometimes you got to look at things and say, well, there really isn't a good solution. Everybody thinks it's either black or white. It's either right or wrong. Sometimes it's very, very gray. There is no real good solution. There's no good guys or bad guys as you would think. It's just what has to be done. Do you do what has to be done?
So what do you got going on now? You got this out. Do you have plans for another book coming up for 26 or?
Yes, I am trying to finish the Gemstone series. I have book number 3, which is sitting at about 30,000 words. I need about another 30 or 40,000 more to actually finish the story. And that story's been running around in my head for years. And I really need to finish the story. I came out with book 2 last year. June of 2025, and I said, okay, I'm going to sit down and finish this series. So, The Diamond Warrior is the last book, and I really have to sit down. And I've been running over stories, and I have some other plots. I don't know what I wrote a couple years ago about this, but I have another plot idea that kind of meshes with what I was working on. So I'm saying, oh, that's a good way to twist this story. So I'm going to sit down and finish that. I'm working on it now. When I say working on it, I mean talking to people in my head.
Right.
They're talking to me. Yeah. I'm talking to them. We're plotting things out. It's like, hey, did you forget about me from the first book? And they're like, oh yeah, I did forget about you. Yeah. Now's my time. And they're like, okay, so we have a water dragon coming in, and I forgot all about the water dragon from the first book. So he got to make his comeback, and working on that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm happy for him. That's great. That's really good. So listen, obviously you do like readers to interact or follow you, or if they can or will. Do you have a website set up? Do you do social media? How do people find James?
You can go to the rockhillpublishing.com. That's my publishing company. I run it. I also publish a bunch of other people. You can also go to jlhill-books.com. That will take you directly to me. There's links all over those websites, so you can get back and forth easily. And of course, I'm on Facebook and Instagram and all the other good places that I'm more on Facebook than anything else. So if you look me up on Facebook, J.L. Hill or Rock Hill Publishing, you'll probably find me easier there. Or like I said, just go to the website, rockhillpublishing.com. That should be your main stop. You go there, you can find everything from there on out.
Well, fantastic. Of course, we'll put that up on our site too. People can find you easily. So Rock Hill Publishing. So what kind of people do you publish? Like what kind of writers are you looking for?
I publish everything from sci-fi, fantasy, romance, women's literature, historical, cyberpunk, which I didn't even know about until I got a cyberpunk writer. So I was like, oh, this is really nice. And then I found out, there's a whole bunch of people who write this. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know what that was either until we had some writers on. Definitely more modern look at
of sci-fi. Yes, it's a more modern type of sci-fi writing.
Well, fantastic. So, there we go. We hope you do well. Wish you the best, and good luck with the next book coming out. And everyone, The Moth and Other Tantalizing Tales. And the author's been with us, James L. Hill. Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been a production of the House of Mystery Radio Show. To find out more about our show, guests, or hosts, go to our website at houseofmysteryradio.com.